والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأطهرين، سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأرضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب قدمهم فداء، ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. أما بعد، قال المعصوم عليه السلام: إلهي البسني زينة المتقين في بسط العدل وكظم الغيظ وإطفاء النائرة. For the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziya, for the enlightenment of the graves of your marhumeen, for the graves of the shuhada, ulama, and siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of the Ahlul Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah in the A'zam, Arahum al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is Rahman and the one who is Rahim, the one that has given us an opportunity to once again sit in the remembrance of Ahlul Bayt. It's an honor to be given this opportunity to come and speak to you, brothers and sisters, especially in these ayyam. And I guess first and foremost, my apologies for once we get the sound right, for being late. There are a number of laws that govern this world, the laws of physics and such. And one of those laws that is very commonly known of in England is Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law dictates that no matter what you do, everything will go wrong, whether you like it or not. Nothing ends up ending up how you wished. However, nonetheless, I have arrived, and inshallah we'll try and get my cognitive functions going again. Sorry? Yeah, no problem, I just don't want to swallow it. So I'll speak up, inshallah. So we'll try and clear the fuzz in my mind. I've been up for about 24 something hours now. So I'm going to try, inshallah, from tomorrow. We'll be back on our game. However, I wanted to start today's lecture from a point where I've started every lecture following the day of Ashura with. And that is that what is it that has changed in our life? Since the day of Ashura and those 10 days of the ayyam of Sayyid al-Shuhada that we spent, those 10 days of crying, those 10 days of mourning for the Imam, what has changed in my life? Am I exactly the same person as I was all those weeks ago? Muharrams come, Muharrams go, and I'm exactly the same. Or is there something that I can say, yes, I've tangibly changed this thing within my life, and now I'm a better human being for it? Because the whole purpose of Sayyid al-Shuhada was Islah, was reformation. If I cannot reform or have not reformed myself one iota, then the whole message of Imam al-Hussein has been wasted. Because Sayyid al-Shuhada himself, when he's coming out from Medina, that letter that he gives to his brother Muhammad Hanafiya, he says, وَإِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لَطَالِبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي أُرِيدُ أَنْ آمُرَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَأَنْهَى عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَأَصِيرُ بِسِيرَةِ جَدِّي وَأَبِي عَلِيَّ بْنِ أَبِي طَالِبٍ. That I've come out in order to seek reform in the ummah of my grandfather. By doing what? By doing amr bil ma'roof, by enjoining the good, by forbidding the evil. وَأَصِيرُ بِسِيرَةِ جَدِّي وَأَبِي عَلِيَّ بْنِ أَبِي طَالِبٍ. By walking, how? By walking upon the seerah, upon the path of my grandfather and my father, Amir al-Mu'mineen. The whole purpose of Karbala was to raise mankind from the degradation of sin and take them to the heights of viewing the majesty and the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The whole purpose of Karbala was for an individual to not remain bogged down in the sins that they had covered themselves in, but rather to raise themselves to places which they did not know existed in proximity to their Lord, to put themselves under such tests, to overcome those tests. But if I'm exactly the same as I was on the 1st of Muharram, as I am today on the night of the 25th of Muharram, then I've wasted my time. If all I gained from the 10 nights was maybe a bruised chest, possibly a cut head, maybe a cut back, dry eyes from the crying, a voice that's lost from the wailing. Yes, it has its place. Yes, it has a maqam. Every tear that falls for Sayyid al-Shuhada, even equivalent to the wing of a mosquito, يُحَطُّ الظُّنُوبَ الْعِذَامِ, every single one of your sins is forgiven. However, when you add in the intellect, now the narrations, they change. When you understand Sayyid al-Shuhada, when you rationalize Sayyid al-Shuhada, when you come and try and comprehend Husayn ibn Ali for who he was, not what culture has made him, but rather who he was. When you simply cry or drop a tear equivalent to a mosquito's wing, يُحِطُّ الظُّنُوبَ الْعِذَامِ, when you hear about his sorrow, it wipes away all of your sins in the same way that fire consumes dry wood. But now you introduce the intellect, and the narration changes. It says, مَنْ بَكَى عَلِ الْحُسَيْنِ عَارِفًا بِحَقِّهِ. Says the one that does buka, who wails over. See how the narration changes. On one side there is just a tear, but on the other side there is wailing. What is the difference? It is the line after عَارِفًا بِحَقِّهِ, the one that understands his right, the one that has rationalized Husayn ibn Ali as his right to be rationalized, the one that has understood him as is his right to be understood. Now when he understands him rationally, and now his tears turn to buka, he wails for him, وَجِبَتْ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. Jannah becomes wajib upon that person. You go to the ziyarah of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Says, مَنْ زَارَ الْحُسَيْنِ كَمَنْ زَارَ اللَّهَ فَوْقَ عَرْشِهِ. It is as if he's done the ziyarah of Allah upon the arsh. It's metaphoric. It's not that Allah physically sits upon an arsh, but rather that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if Allah did sit upon an arsh, upon a throne, the equivalent to doing the ziyarat of Sayyid al-Shuhada would be if a person was to do the ziyarah of Allah upon the throne. That's how much thawab there is there. It says, مَنْ زَارَ الْحُسَيْنِ كَمَنْ زَارَ اللَّهَ فَوْقَ عَرْشِهِ. It says if he's done the ziyarah of Allah upon the arsh. But then you introduce the intellect. It says, مَنْ زَارَ الْحُسَيْنِ عَارِفًا بِحَقِّهِ وَجِبَتْ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. Now when you introduce the intellect, Jannah becomes wajib upon that individual. Have I rationalized Imam al-Husayn? Have I understood him with my intellect, not just with my emotion? Because what is the definition of jahl? The definition of ignorance is when a person's emotions overcome his intellect. The soul consists of 4 powers. قوة العقلية, the power of the intellect. قوة الغضبية, the power of anger, قوة الشهوية, the power of desire, وقوة الوهمية, the power of imagination. And all three of these, the anger, the desire, the imagination, all of them are subservient to قوة العقلية, are subservient to the power of the intellect. If the intellect is allowed to temper each of these and bring them into a state of equilibrium, that allows a person to ascend towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. في مقعد صدق عند مليك مقتدر. Certain individuals will enter into Jannah, and the next day people will say, Ya Allah, these people were with me yesterday, we entered Jannah together. And the reply will come, no, these are individuals who were in love with Allah, had understood Allah. So where are they now? And the reply will come, في مقعد صدق عند مليك مقتدر, that they have been taken to the highest of realms, in front of the Lord of Lords. They no longer want heaven, they no longer want the reward. They want to be by the side of Allah. They don't want any rewards. These are those that rationalize Allah. Those that rationalize Hussein ibn Ali, no longer restrict him to the cultural boundaries for which we have bound him by, that we get really upset if on, Hazrat Abbas's night someone doesn't bring laddus in. We get really upset about it. Because this is Hazrat Abbas's night, we have to. Or if I don't get to sponsor the niyaz on the 7th of Muharram, I get really upset. No, this is what my family have always done. And we always make nihari. Because this is what we do. And this is what we've reduced Sayyid al-Shuhada to. That we have reduced him to being an individual who we have dressed up in this cultural guise, and thus, as community, stagnated. Sayyid al-Shuhada himself, he says to the people, after everyone has gone, everyone, this one statement of Sayyid al-Shuhada, I'm not sure if we will get time to discuss it here, but they're planned for later lectures around the US. This one statement of Sayyid al-Shuhada, after he's given everyone, he's given Ali Asghar as well, and now he stands in the Qatlagah, he stands there in the battlefield, and he says to them, if you don't fear God, and you don't fear Qiyamah, كانوا أحرارا في دنياكم, at least be free men in your world. In the dunya, at least be free men. That's what Sayyid al-Shuhada is calling towards. He's calling us towards this freedom. Be free. Don't be bound by culture. And this isn't me attacking culture, this isn't me attacking language, no, it is all a medium to understand. But when culture becomes our religion, that is when nations were destroyed. Previous nations were annihilated when they fell and they began to conform to their cultural norms, what we have done for years, and they weren't able to change, they weren't able to develop. Look at the Qawm of Aad, you look at Thamud, you look at the people of Ashab al-Aika of Nabi Shu'aib, you look at the people of Nabi Musa, you look at the people of any of the other prophets. Majority of them turned around and they would say to the prophets, but our fathers did this. But our forefathers have done this. And so they could not come out of that cultural mindset. And eventually it led to their destruction, their downfall. So when I come away from culture, when I begin to peel away, and I uncover the true essence of the event of Karbala, then I begin to truly understand who is Hussein. Then I truly begin to understand who Abu Abdullah is, Now I've written it on bottles and I'm giving it to people. I've written it on roses and I'm asking people. I've written it on little pamphlets and I'm giving it out to people. But I argue, I myself still don't know who is Hussein. Because if we knew who Abu Abdullah was, then we wouldn't walk around with so much pain and hatred in our hearts. We wouldn't walk around filled with anger. We wouldn't walk around being unjust. Because why? He's saying, Kunu ahraran fi dunyakum. Hussein is calling you to be free. And the people that are free, that are hur, have certain characteristics that make them hur, that make them free in the world. They're not bound by emotion. They're free from all of it. This is how she can stand in front of Ibn Ziyad. And he says to her, what is it? How is it that you view what your Lord, what Allah did to your brother? And she looks him in the eye and says, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. Zainab saw only beauty. What is the beauty that Sayyida Zainab sees in Karbala? Amongst all of that bloodshed, amongst all of that killing, what beauty is it that she sees in Karbala? The beauty Zainab sees in Karbala is someone like Habib ibn Madahir coming with Muslim ibn Awsaja to Karbala. And when Muslim ibn Awsaja falls and dies, Habib, before he dies, Habib goes to his body, says, Muslim, is there anything Habib can do for you? He says, Habib, as long as you are alive, defend Abi Abdullah. That is my will. The beauty that Zainab sees in Karbala is someone like Sa'id ibn Abdullah standing in front of the Imam of his time. As his Imam is praying Salah behind him, arrows are coming towards him. He catches every arrow with his body and his neck, and he falls to the ground. The Imam takes the head of Sa'id. He says, Sa'id, is there anything Hussein can do for you? He says, yes, answer one question, Yabna Rasulillah. He says, what is that question? He says, Awafaytu Yabna Rasulillah. Has Sa'id been loyal to you, O son of Rasulullah? He doesn't ask for Jannah. He doesn't ask for anything. He is a free man. The beauty Zainab sees in Karbala is someone like Abis ibn Shabib al-Shakiri coming out, removing his armor, throwing it aside and saying, come and fight me, I'm not afraid. And Umar ibn Sa'd saying, Hada Asadul Aswad, this is the black lion, no one fight him one-on-one. They say, how should we attack him? He says, stone him from afar, kill him like that. And they stone him from afar, they kill Abis ibn Shabib. In that way, the beauty that they see in Karbala is that someone like Habib ibn Madahir coming out when someone shouts out against his Imam, Hussein, your salah is not accepted. Habib goes out and he says that, Yabna Rasulillah, this salah I will now pray next to Rasulullah in Jannah. And he goes out with that yaqeen. He fights his way. The beauty that Zainab sees in Karbala is someone like Muslim ibn Awsaja, or someone like Habib ibn Madahir, someone like Zuhair ibn Burayd. These individuals that come to Karbala, these individuals that are there, that are free. And there's so many different examples that I could give you. Individuals whom we've never heard of. Individuals who we've never pondered over. Certain individuals turn up to Karbala even before the event of Karbala. The beauty, say, that Zainab sees in Karbala is her brother taking the body of the 6-month-old child and the neck pierced. She takes the blood. He takes the blood. He throws it to the heavens. And he says, my Lord, it is easy for Hussein to bear, knowing that you are watching. The beauty she sees in Karbala is her brother covered in wounds, covered in blood. having given everything for the sake of Allah, he looks to the heavens. إلهي تركت الخلق طرا في هواك وأيتمت العيال لكي أراك وإن قطعتني بالحب أربى لمال الفؤاد إلى السواك. Says, my Lord, I've left the whole of creation for your sake. I've orphaned my children so that I may see you. And even if the swords were to come and cut me to pieces, my heart would turn to none but you. And the beloved rides out, and the beloved calls back, يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية. Oh, the content soul, return to your Lord. And he falls from the horse, head on the ground. إلهي رضا برضاك وتسليما لأمرك لا معبود سواك يا غياث المستغيثين. This is that beauty that she sees in Karbala. My Lord, I find none worthy of worship but you. Oh, the one that hears the cries of the one that cries out. My Lord, I am happy within which there is your happiness. That's Karbala. That's the true essence of Karbala, when everything is peeled away. And so now what lessons will I take from Karbala? From all of the things that have happened, from all of the matters that I've heard, from all of those years that I have mourned, what lessons am I going to take from Karbala? What lessons, what things can I change in my life? Before you, I recited a part of Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq of Imam al-Sajjad salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. Where Imam al-Sajjad, he begins to list the characteristics of the muttaqeen. As to who are the muttaqeen, who are the individuals who are the God-fearing. And I want to just, in the time that I have left, to look at the characteristics of the muttaqeen before we go into the musibah. He says, Ilahi, and those of you that want a checklist of things that a free person should have, the hur must have, Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq is that checklist. A place where I can go and say, these are the moral things, these are the moral characteristics I must possess in my life. These are the immoral things that must not be in my life. Where he's saying, my Lord, do not raise me in front of the people, darajatan illa hatattani anda nafsi mithlaha. My Lord, don't raise me in front of the people by one level without lowering its equivalent within me. Lines like this that Imam al-Sajjad brings forward, because the time of Imam al-Sajjad, you know that the Imam couldn't openly go out and propagate. And so now he had to do tabligh in the form of dua. He had to give his message in the form of dua. If he wanted to teach people about the importance of parents, the dua is there in Sahifa. He would begin with the dua for the parents, dua for the people of the frontier, dua for the neighbors, dua for those in debt, dua for those that are having troubles at home, dua for those with illnesses, du'as for every single problem, every single issue. Imam al-Sajjad compiles that within Sahifa Sajjadiyah. And one of those du'as is Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq. The dua which talks about the peak of morality. See, there is a difference between Makarim al-Akhlaq and Mahasin al-Akhlaq. See, Mahasin al-Akhlaq, good, beautiful manners. Mahasin al-Akhlaq means beautiful manners. Beautiful manners are what? When someone does good to you, do good to them. When someone does bad to you, or someone hurts you, or someone offends you, you're just patient with them. You don't reply, just leave them. That's mahasin al-akhlaq. But the dua is known as makarim al-akhlaq, the peak of morality. See, mahasin al-akhlaq, someone does good, you do good, someone does bad, you do sabr. But makarim al-akhlaq is someone does good to you, you do better to them. Someone does bad to you, you do good to them. This is makarim al-akhlaq. And it is the most difficult stage to achieve. But it is displayed in the life of Imam al-Sajjad so beautifully. Post Karbala, during the event of Harra, when Yazid sends his individuals, he sends his army to desecrate Medina, to desecrate Mecca. The event of Harra is so brutal. In order to suppress the uprisings that were happening, the event of Harra is so brutal that the narrations say over 1,000 illegitimate children were born in Medina the year after the event of Harra. Yazid had given free rein to his soldiers. Kill, rape, pillage, do what you want. During this event, they say that Walid came to visit Imam al-Sajjad. Which Walid? The very same Walid ibn Utbah, which at the start of this whole saga said that if Hussein doesn't give bay'ah, tell him we will cut off his head. That individual. That same individual now is coming during the event of Harra to Imam al-Sajjad. And he is saying to him that, Imam, the event is difficult. The event of Harra, they're going to rape and pillage and kill. I worry for my women. Will you take them in and give you sanctuary? Because the houses of Bani Hashim are off limits. Because they did everything in Karbala. No one dares come near your houses. What would I do? I often ask myself, someone who's killed my father, my brother, arguably this is the person that led to all of this. My father, my brother, my uncle, my uncles. Then my women folk are taken prisoner. Then my women folk are oppressed in that way. I'm oppressed in that way. Now this individual is sitting in front of me and saying to me, will you take care of my women? What would I have said? And what does Zainul Abidin say? I told him, get on your way. Like, get out of here. Like, why am I going to help you? What does Imam al-Sajjad say? He says, bring them. Bring all your women. Keep them in the houses of Bani Hashim. And then, not even that, when the women leave after the event of Harra, they say, we did not have as much freedom and peace in the houses of our fathers as we did in the house of Ali ibn al-Husayn. This is makarimul akhlaq. An individual that is the reason for everything that befell you, but yet you show him good. This is that makarimul akhlaq. Sayyid al-Shuhada lost everything. He said to them, be free in your dunya at least. Everything goes. He's on the ground. Even before he falls to the ground. One last time he says to them, don't do this. Don't seal your fates. I don't want to see you go to hell. His Ali Asghar is gone already. His Abbas is gone already. His Ali Akbar is gone already. But yet he still turned to them and saying to them, I don't want to see you seal your fates. Don't do it. Turn back. And they still insist. And then when he falls to the ground, the narration says, as Shimar sits on his chair, he says, I saw the lips of Hussein move, listening to what he has to say. And Abi Abdullah, even at that point, was saying, Shimar, don't kill me. He says, don't kill me, don't seal your fate. If you kill me, you will go to hell. Don't do it. This is makarimul akhlaq. When someone has wronged you in that way, and you're still concerned about their welfare. This is why I said at the start, we haven't understood Abu Abdullah. We haven't been able to comprehend who is Imam al-Hussein. And that individual, when in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the Holy Prophet, that if they knew the grief that was in your heart for them not following this religion, surely you would die if it was on you out of grief of these individuals not listening. There's no less for Ahlul Bayt. So the Shuhada is there, but yet no one is willing to listen. Amir al-Mu'mineen is taking Kumayl ibn Ziyad al-Nakhai into the desert, and he's saying to him, Kumayl ha'huna ilman jama'a. Kumayl, there is so much knowledge here. Kumayl, there's no one to take it. Ali wants to give knowledge, but there's no one that is willing to take the knowledge of Ali. Ahlul Bayt were madhaloom then. Ahlul Bayt are madhaloom now. At least back then they were madhaloom at the hands of their enemies. Today they are madhaloom at the hands of their own Shias. I have Nahjul Balagha in my home. I have Safifat al-Sajjadiyya in my home. How many times have I picked it up to see what is it that Ali wanted to say to me? What is it that Imam al-Sajjad said? They are madhaloom then. They are madhaloom now. Makarimul akhlaq is when someone has done bad to you, you repay them and you do good to them. Look at the whole journey of Karbala. Abu Abdullah comes to someone like Ubaydullah ibn Ju'fi. Says to Ubaydullah, I know you fought against my father Ali in Siffin. I know that you didn't help my brother Hassan, but I'm giving you an opportunity. And if you come and aid me, I guarantee you the shifa of my grandfather on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Says to him, Yabna Rasulillah, I know you're on haqq, but I can't come. Here's my horse, and here's my sword. The horse is one of the fastest in Arabia. The sword is one of the sharpest. Imam looks at him and says, we don't want your horse. We don't want your sword. We want you. He says, I can't come. See the amount of love that Sayyid al-Shuhada has. That he wants to bring this. Zuhair ibn Qayn. This is Zuhair ibn Qayn. Is an individual who fought against Imam Ali in Siffin. He was an individual that wasn't even Shia. He was of the Uthmani madhab. He avoided Imam al-Hussein because they were both in the desert. He avoided Imam al-Hussein the whole time. He says, Hussein's caravan, I knew Hussein was plotting something. He'd caused some trouble. I wanted nothing to do with it. So wherever Hussein would set his tent, I would go and set my tents elsewhere. Says one day the messenger of Abi Abdullah turns up to the tents of Zuhair. Says Zuhair ibn Qayn, Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam al-Hussein has requested your presence. He's requested an audience with you. Zuhair ibn Qayn says that we all sat there, all me and my kinsmen, my family members, as if there were birds upon our heads, none of us wanting to move. My wife turns to me and says, Zuhair, the son of Rasulullah calls you. Will you not go? Zuhair ibn Qayn turns to the messenger. He says to the messenger, he says, tell Hussein I will come to see him shortly. He says, no Zuhair, you don't understand. Hussein is standing outside the tent. Abu Abdullah has come himself to meet you, Zuhair. Zuhair ibn Qayyim goes out. The books of history don't say what it is that Abu Abdullah said to Zuhair. All we know is that when Zuhair came back, his kinsmen narrate, his family members narrate, it was as if Nur was falling from the face of Zuhair. He turned to his wife, he said, I have divorced you, and I have given you all of my wealth. And he turns to his family members, he says, all of you, remove any oath of allegiance you have to me, take my wife, give her all my property. So Zuhair, what about you? He says, I'm going to join Hussein. I'm going to join Abi Abdullah. Just a short moment, these are individuals who fought against Amir al-Mu'mineen. But makarimul akhlaq is that an individual still gives that person a chance. So Imam al-Sajjad says, Ilahi albisni zinat al-muttaqeen. My Lord, clothe me in the beauty of the muttaqeen. Fi bast al-adl. And then he lists the characteristics of the muttaqeen. He says, clothe me in the clothing of the muttaqeen. Fi bast al-adl. By establishing justice. The first sifat of the muttaqeen is that they are just. They don't do dhulm on anyone, any person. They don't do dhulm on themselves. You see, dhulm isn't one country bombing another country. Dhulm isn't Israel bombing Palestine. Dhulm isn't Saudi bombing Yemen. No, dhulm is to take something from its rightful place and take it elsewhere. That's true dhulm. Says the person that is adil will not do dhulm, not even upon himself. When I recite Dua Kumayn and I say Zalamtu nafsi, I have done dhulm on myself because of my sins. As a result of my sins, I have committed dhulm on myself. Zalamtu nafsi wa tajarra'tu bijahli. And I've been audacious in my ignorance. I don't know anything, but I'm showing everyone that I don't know anything. Fi bast al-adl. Then he says, وَكَظْمِ الْغَيْظِ. And swallowing anger. The one that swallows anger. So one day Imam al-Sajjad is there. And he's called one of the slaves to pour water to wash his hand. As she's bringing the jug slips from her hand and hits the head of Imam al-Sajjad. It cuts the head of the Imam. The Imam looks towards her. She looks towards the Imam. She sees slight change in the expression of the Imam. And she begins to recite the Quran. She says, وَكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ. The people of Allah are those that swallow their anger. The Imam looks at her and says, I've swallowed my anger. وَعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. And they forgive the people. Imam says, I have forgiven you. Then she completes the ayah, وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those that do ihsan. The Imam says, not only have I forgiven you, not only have I swallowed my anger, but go, I have freed you in the way of Allah. وَكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ. وَكَظْمِ الْغَيْظِ. There are those that swallow their anger. The muttaqeen swallow their anger. وَإِطْفَاءِ النَّائِرَةِ. And they extinguish the flame of hate in their hearts. We walk around with so much hatred in our hearts. So much anger towards individuals, towards family members, towards ex-friends, that it holds us back. It stops us from flourishing. Because all the time I'm so consumed by this hatred that I don't develop myself. I'm too busy hating the other person. So hatred is haram. Hatred is haram. You don't, in Islam, You hate the sin, not the sinner. This is how the Imams could be faced with individuals that did dhulm on them, but yet still forgive them, yet still show mercy to them, because they hated the action, not the individual that was created by Allah. وَإِطْفَاءٍ نَائِرَةٍ. Sometimes hatred consumes us. It consumes us, then it makes us blind to the reality. It makes us blind to the haqa'iq, to the realities. And so we're so consumed by this hatred that I can't see what I'm doing is detrimental to myself. And certain individuals will be so consumed by this hate that they cannot let go. They cannot let go of all of that. And so they cannot progress. They cannot reach Allah as is His right to be reached, to be worshipped. Those three characteristics that Imam speaks about, it's enough for us to think about. And then that one line of Sayyid al-Shuhada, be free. If nothing else, be free. The people that are free from hatred, are free from anger. And you see the level of magnanimity that is shown by those individuals. Karbala is the height of freedom. People who are not bound by the constraints of this world. Not bound by the societal pressures. And on the other side, you have individuals who are slaves to this world. And you see the difference between the two groups. That those that are free are willing to forgive. Individuals like Hur, come, forgive. At least you've come. When Hur comes, his head is down. Imam looks at him, he says, Irfa ra'sak ya Hur. He says, raise your head, Hur. He says, you've come over to us now, raise your head. There's no need for your head to be lowered. Irfa ra'sak. Raise it. So, Ya Rasulullah, Ali min tawbah. Has the repentance of Hur been accepted? He says, of course, Hur, you've come to us. That's all that matters. And then on the other side, you have such individuals that the dhulm that they committed haunted Ahlul Bayt for years, especially Imam al-Sajjad. There are certain things in the life of the Imam that following Karbala that always were with the Imam. One of those places was Sham. But one of those deaths that haunted Ahlul Bayt. And at every stage they would ask, when Mukhtar had begun his revolution, they would come and they would tell him that this person has been caught, this person has been caught. Imam Sajjad would only ask one thing. He said, tell me, have they caught Hurmala yet? Have they caught Hurmala? What was it that this Hurmala did to the heart of Abi Abdullah, to the heart of Ahlul Bayt, to the heart of Imam al-Sajjad? There are certain things, there are certain pains that an individual has, and they cannot, certain sorrows that they share with their family. For example, look towards Karbala, when Qasim's body is trampled, Imam brings his body back, he mourns with the women in the tents. Ali Akbar's body, فَقَطَّعُوهُ إِرْبًا إِرْبًا. They mutilated his body. They cut shreds out of his body. His body was not in a position to be brought back. They brought it while holding it within an abba. Ali Akbar's body is brought in that sense, but he comes and he mourns with the women of Ahlul Bayt. Awan and Muhammad, Abbas, he comes, he mourns with them, but then there are sometimes such sorrows in your life that you know, if I mourn with the people from my household, they won't be able to bear it. And so you have to go outside of your house and tell other people about it, because they're detached from that event. And Sayyid al-Shuhada does this. He calls out to you in one regard, in one death. He doesn't call his Shias in any other death, but there is one such death that Imam Hussein calls out to you, his Shias. He says, Shi'ati laytakum fi yawmi Ashura jami'an tanzuruni. My Shias, how I wish you were there in Karbala and you would have seen كيف استصغي لطفلي فأبواه يرحموني. How Hussein took out his 6-month-old child and how they showed mercy to me. Abu Abdullah takes out the child. You've heard the musibah. Then he comes, he says, Nawalini waladi as-saghir. Bring me my 6-month-old child so that I may bid him farewell. But when they bring the child to Abu Abdullah, something changes his mind. He came to bid the child farewell. But they say maybe it was because the state of the child. What was the state of Ali Asghar? They say the child's skin had become yellow. His eyes, out of thirst, were beginning to roll. He couldn't keep his eyes open. And then this third thing that the Maqtal says, the child was so weak that he no longer could kick or move his legs. Rather, all he could do is open and close his mouth. Abu Abdullah looks down towards his child. He turns towards the battlefield. You hear, he goes out. He speaks to them. Umar ibn Sa'd comes to Harmala. He says to him, cut off the words of Hussein. Harmala replies to him, Umar ibn Sa'd, who shall I go for, the father or the son? He says, do you see that white spot on the neck of Ali al-Asghar? Harmala fires that arrow, a 3-headed arrow that is used to kill camels. He fires that arrow, and your Imam says in Ziyaratul Nahiya, do you know how Ali Asghar was killed? He says, Assalamu ala al-tifl al-radi' mazbuhim min al-uzn ila al-uzn. My salams be upon that child that was slaughtered from ear to ear. The arrow enters the neck of Ali, but because it's a 3-headed arrow, it slaughters the boy from ear to ear. Abu Abdullah looks down at the child. When Mukhtar caught Karbala, he said to him, Mal'un, tell me, what is it you did in Karbala? What is it that you did in Karbala? He says, Mukhtar, if you ask me, I fired 4 arrows. He says, where were those arrows? He says, the first arrow that I fired was into the eye of Al-Abbas. The second arrow that I fired was into the neck of the 6-month-old child of Abi Abdullah. The 4th arrow that I fired was a 3-headed poisoned arrow that I fired into the heart of Hussein. On Yom Ashura, at the Asr of Ashura, when Imam Hussein's head is struck with a stone, the Maqtal says Abu Abdullah lifted up his shirt. He wiped away the blood. Harmala, seeing the chest of Abi Abdullah, fires a 3-headed poisoned arrow into the heart of Imam Hussein. From close range, that arrow hit with such force that the head of the arrow came out of the back of Imam Hussein. He says, the 3rd arrow I fired there, the 4th arrow that I fired was when Abdullah ibn Hassan, the younger brother of Hazrat Qasim, the youngest son of Imam Hassan, when he ran out in order to defend his uncle. Everyone had died. Abdullah ibn Hassan sees Sayyid al-Shuhada lying there alone. He comes running out to defend his uncle. They cut off his arm. He falls in the lap of Abi Abdullah. He says, I fired an arrow into his chest. I killed the boy in the lap of Hussein. Mukhtar says to him, Mal'oon, did your heart not break for Hussein? Did you not have any mercy for Hussein at any time? He says, Mukhtar, if you ask me, there was one time my heart broke for Hussein. Says, when was it? Says, when I fired that three-headed arrow into the neck of Ali al-Asghar. He says, I saw Hussein look down at the child, look towards the heavens, look back down. At that moment I knew Hussein was truly ghareeb, Hussein was truly alone. There was no one by his side. There was nothing Hussein could do. He walked back 7 times, back and forth, back and forth. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Radam biqada'ihi wa tasliman li amri. And then he takes the child, he buries him. You hear, he begins to dig the grave. Now as he's dug the grave, he holds the child to his chest. They say he cried so much, Abu Abdullah cried so much, holding the lifeless body of Ali al-Asghar, that a voice came from the heavens, Hussein, leave the child. We have wet nurses waiting for him in heaven. He goes to place the child in the earth. From behind him he hears someone running. Oh, Abu Abdullah, let me see my son one last time. She runs, Rabab comes to see her son. One last time they bury Ali al-Asghar. It is mustahab to pour water on the grave after you have buried someone. But Hussein is so ghareeb. Hussein is so ghareeb that he has no water to pour on the grave of his son. They say, what is it Hussein does? وَضَعَ خَدَّهُ عَلَى التُّرَابِ. Hussein placed his cheek on the earth and he cried. He cried so much that he filled the grave of Ali Asghar with tears. أَلَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيُّ الْقَلَبِ يَنْقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of these tears, Ya Allah, forgive our sins. Ilahi, for the sake of these tears, for that child that Imam as-Sadiq says, whoever uses the name of that madloom 3 times, Allah never rejects his dua. They asked him, Ibn Rasulullah, who is that madloom? He says, the 6-month-old child of Abi Abdullah, because the child was ma'soom, he had no crime. Says, whoever uses his name 3 times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never rejects their dua. Ya Allah, for the sake of that child of Abi Abdullah, forgive the sins of our parents. Ya Allah, those of our parents that are alive, for the sake of Rabab, give our parents long lives. Ya Allah, those that are ill, that are suffering from physical ailments, mental health issues, Ya Allah, for the sake of this child of Abi Abdullah, Ya Allah, give them shifa. Ya Allah, those that are in debt, clear their debts. Those who are in education, make them successful. Ya Allah, keep safe the Azadar of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Ya Allah, keep safe the Zahireen of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Ya Allah, give us the opportunity to go and visit Abi Abdullah and recite our ziyarah towards the grave of Imam al-Hussein. Oh Allah, keep our ulama and our maraji, the ulama institutions. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and allow us to be amongst his true muttadrin, his true witness. For the acceptance of these du'as and any of the du'as that brothers and sisters have brought, please recite 3 minutes of